much as I did not like Diana Taurasi, there ain't no way I'm not gonna write her as an all-star person.
No, but they wouldn't.
Right? Like, as much as I did not like anybody on the Lynx because they used to whoop our ass, I'm not gonna not put Maya Moore or Sylvia Fowles or, like, I don't know. I think people need to look at themselves in the mirror and realize, like, man, you got some insecurities if you sitting down and putting Caitlin Clark as the...
What Candace Parker pointed to as insecurity, not differing opinions or alternative perspectives, but insecurities. And when a two-time MVP, three-time champion, and one of the greatest players in WNBA history calls out her own peers for having childhood issues that need therapy, it's clear something has broken inside the league. What we just witnessed isn't only about Caitlin Clark being voted the 11th best guard. It's about a fracture that has been growing for months, and it finally burst wide open when those anonymous ballots were revealed.
That you guys are going to vote Caitlin Clark as the 11th best guard, not player, guard in the league. Candace Parker said, you ladies need to go to therapy. She said, you ladies need to go see a doctor. Y'all need to get drug tested. There's something extremely wrong with y'all.
Here's what actually took place. During the WNBA's annual peer poll, players ranked the top talent at each position. When the results were revealed, Caitlin Clark, who led the league with 8.4 assists per game, broke the rookie assist record, and helped produce the highest TV ratings in WNBA history, was voted the 11th best guard. Not 11th overall, but 11th among guards. She finished behind players who didn't make the All-Star team, behind players whose teams missed the playoffs, and behind players many casual fans couldn't identify. Candace Parker, who never had a reason to be jealous of anyone during her career, looked at those results and said what so many people were already thinking: you need therapy to figure out what childhood trauma made you vote that way.
You were the real deal Holyfield, so you didn't really have a reason to be jealous of anybody in the league. You didn't really have a reason to be envious of anybody in the league. You were the real deal Holyfield. You're a pretty girl. I got nothing to be jealous about anybody in this league. But you look around this league right now, there's a lot of jealous people who aren't the real deal.
What makes Parker's point so important is why she's uniquely qualified to say it. When you're the #1 pick, earn MVP and Rookie of the Year in the same season, appear on magazine covers, and lead your team to championships, you don't feel threatened by other great players. Her example involving Diana Taurasi says it all. They didn't like each other, and the Sparks and Mercury shared a real rivalry on the court. Yet when it was time to vote for all-star selections or recognize greatness, Parker never allowed personal feelings to influence her judgment. That's because when you're confident in your own abilities, you can appreciate excellence in others. But looking around the WNBA today, how many players truly have that level of confidence?
I don't think the best players in the league voted her 11th. Like, let's just say A'ja Wilson got a ballot. I don't think she voted her 11th. She was like, yeah, she's probably top 2 guard, #1 in the league. Yeah, I don't care. A'ja Wilson's got nothing to be. Nafisa Collier, yeah, she a top. Yeah, she one of the best guards. Yeah, boom, top. Sabrina, yeah, she a top. Breanna Stewart, yeah, she one of the best. But once we get out of that top 5, top 6 range of players in this league, then the insecurity starts settling in, and then the voting and the jealousy.
This is where Parker's analysis becomes especially interesting. She believes the top 5 or 6 players in the league likely voted fairly. A'ja Wilson, who won MVP that season, probably had Caitlin in her top 3 guards. Sabrina Ionescu, secure as one of the league's best, likely voted honestly. Breanna Stewart isn't concerned about Caitlin taking her place because those players are already established. They have their contracts, endorsements, and legacies. But once you move beyond that elite group and start looking at players ranked 7th through 20th, that's where insecurity begins to surface. Those players are competing for all-star spots and endorsement opportunities. They're watching a rookie land a Nike signature shoe deal that many couldn't earn after a decade in the league. They're also seeing Caitlin's games attract 3 million viewers while there's draw around 300,000, and that creates resentment.
Should have been upgraded to a flagrant 2 and assessed a 1-game suspension. I don't disagree with
Do I think
the call.
that it should have been upgraded? Yeah. I do. I think it should have been upgraded to a flagrant 2, assessed a 1-game suspension. I don't disagree with the call. I think it should be upgraded and play on. But again, the lack of coming out and actually talking about the things that are happening after things were assessed, like Alyssa Thomas, right? She was loud and proud about saying she didn't hear that she was being suspended until almost 10 minutes before the game.
Now let's talk about the Aaliyah Boston moment, because it connects to a much larger pattern that's been raising questions all season. Boston said, "That's not a basketball play," referring to the Dejounte Carrington flagrant foul after Caitlin was hit in the face during the playoff game. She's absolutely right, it wasn't a basketball play. But the bigger question is, what did Aaliyah Boston do about it? If you watch the games and pay close attention to how the Fever players interact with opponents who have been physical with Caitlin, you'll notice plenty of talk, but very little action. They give interviews saying the right things and post supportive messages on social media. Yet when they see those same players in the tunnel before the next game, it's handshakes, hugs, laughter, and business as usual.
Talked about the death. Yeah, we'll talk about the death threats. Aaliyah Boston, she chimes in. Aaliyah Boston chimes in and says, that's not a basketball play. That's not a basketball play. You don't put a fist in somebody's throat and damn near stomp them while you're walking over them. All right, you two, all right. Let's get right into it, shall we? Like the video, hype the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. We'll start right over here. We'll start.
The Alyssa Thomas situation highlighted this issue perfectly. Thomas struck Caitlin in the throat with a closed fist and then stepped over her while she was on the floor. After reviewing the play, the league upgraded it to a flagrant 2, leading to a 1-game suspension. Candace Parker said the foul deserved the upgrade, and she agreed with that decision. But afterward, Thomas claimed on her podcast that she had received death threats. She also said the league didn't inform her about the suspension until 10 minutes before the game, and that Commissioner Kathy Engelbert never contacted her. Those claims were later disputed. Reporter Alexa Filippo confirmed that Thomas and Engelbert had been texting throughout the process. The league followed its standard suspension procedures, and no evidence of the alleged death threats was presented. Thomas shifted the focus away from her own actions by creating a narrative in which she appeared to be the victim.
Either. That's make-believe. That never happened. The death threats never happened. That's Alyssa Thomas deflecting and not taking accountability. That's her telling everybody to look in a different direction and not stop looking at her. That's called playing the victim.
Basketball, man.
Another issue that keeps surfacing in these conversations needs to be addressed. Whenever controversy surrounds Caitlin Clark, someone brings up death threats. Thomas said she received them, and other players have made similar claims. The implication is usually the same, that Caitlin's fan base is toxic, dangerous, and that the league must protect players from it. But here's the important context. In the NFL, kickers who miss game-winning field goals receive death threats on social media. In the NBA, players who leave teams in free agency face the same kind of messages. In European soccer, players often receive death threats after major matches. Unfortunately, that's become part of professional sports in the social media era. It's not unique to the WNBA or to Caitlin Clark's fan base. More importantly, these typically aren't credible threats requiring FBI investigations. They're often anonymous accounts with no followers posting inflammatory comments to attract attention.
Own that. Like, we don't condone death threats.
The league actually doesn't have to come out and say that. That's where we disagree. The league actually doesn't have to come out and say that. You don't see Roger Goodell coming out and saying that. You don't see Adam Silver coming out and saying that. You don't see Rob Manfred coming out and saying that. This is something that
Parker makes this point directly. She argues that professional sports leagues typically don't issue public statements every time a player receives death threats. Roger Goodell doesn't hold a press conference whenever an NFL player is threatened on social media. Adam Silver doesn't release statements over every hateful message aimed at NBA players. And Rob Manfred doesn't address every similar incident in baseball because those leagues understand that giving anonymous trolls attention can encourage more of the same behavior. Parker's argument is that some WNBA players expect a different response. They want the commissioner to personally reach out, make public statements condemning the behavior, and provide a level of support that players in other leagues generally don't receive. When that doesn't happen, they argue the league isn't protecting them. The question she raises is why WNBA players expect that level of support when athletes in other major leagues typically do not.
Y'all need to go to a therapist and figure out what childhood issues you have.
Damn, go to a therapist and see what kind of childhood issues you have. Gee, well, Candace Parker.
Now, let's return to Parker's therapy comment, because it points to a deeper issue worth examining. When you rank Caitlin Clark as the 11th best guard in the league, you're no longer making a basketball evaluation, you're making an emotional decision. You're allowing your feelings about her popularity, media coverage, endorsement deals, and fan base to influence your opinion of her performance on the court. Just consider what Caitlin accomplished this season. She broke the rookie assist record that had stood for decades, became the first rookie ever to record a triple-double, led all rookies in points, assists, and three-pointers made, and helped an Indiana Fever team that won 13 games the previous season reach the playoffs. She achieved all of that while facing some of the most physical defensive attention any rookie has received, with opponents openly admitting they were trying to play her physically. Even after watching all of that unfold, players still voted her 11th.
Like, what are we doing? Like, so
You don't put your hand in your fist in someone's throat and damn near kick them. It's a basketball game. Now, you know what I'm going to say to you, Aaliyah Boston? Then you better not give Alyssa Thomas no dap when you see her on Thursday. Tell that to.
What makes Aaliyah Boston's comments especially frustrating is what comes afterward. She said, "You don't put your fist in someone's throat and damn near kick them on the floor. It's a basketball game. What are we doing?" That's absolutely the right response and exactly what a teammate should say publicly. But then what happens next? The Fever play the sun again. They face the sky again. They cross paths with these same players during the off-season, at events, training facilities, and USA basketball camps. If Aaliyah Boston is giving Alyssa Thomas a friendly hug the next time they meet, or laughing and joking with Dejounte Carrington, then those words lose their meaning. It becomes support for the cameras rather than genuine loyalty when it matters. That's the accountability issue being questioned in the WNBA. Players may say the right things in interviews, but they don't always back those words up with their actions.
That really starts seeping in to these players, and that's why we get Caitlin Clark as the 11th best guard in the league. You got players who have no business really being allowed to vote. It is what it is. But I agree.
Parker's comparison between Tom Brady and Dak Prescott captures the point perfectly. Brady never felt threatened by Dak Prescott's success because he had already won 7 Super Bowl rings and was secure in his legacy. He didn't need to diminish another quarterback to feel confident in himself. That's what true greatness and confidence look like. But when you're an average WNBA player fighting for rotation minutes and hoping for a contract extension, watching a rookie instantly become the face of the league can trigger insecurity. That feeling can grow even stronger when the rookie doesn't look like you, doesn't come from the same background, and attracts fans who never followed the league before. That's the uncomfortable reality many people avoid discussing, but Candace Parker came close to addressing it. Looking at the bigger picture, this goes far beyond one poll or one flagrant foul. What we're seeing is a league struggling with internal tension. On one side are the veteran players who helped build the WNBA over 25 years, competed in nearly empty arenas, fought for better pay and working conditions, and laid the foundation for today's league. They feel they've earned the right to be its biggest stars and benefit from its growth. On the other side is Caitlin Clark, who simply continued playing basketball the way she always has, with remarkable skill and infectious joy. Millions of people ended up tuning in to watch her play. She brought unprecedented attention to the league, with games producing TV ratings WNBA executives had only imagined. Her jersey sales reached record levels, and her presence made the playoffs more financially successful than ever before. But instead of embracing that momentum and recognizing that rising success can benefit everyone, a significant group of players reacted with resentment. They voted her the 11th best guard, played her with a level of physicality many believed crossed the line, made critical remarks about her fans, and claimed she received favorable officiating despite taking hard contact on drives without many calls. According to this viewpoint, they created a hostile environment for the player who was bringing massive attention to the league. Candace Parker sees the situation differently because she's now retired. She isn't competing with Caitlin for all-star spots or endorsement deals, allowing her to view everything from a distance and describe it as jealousy, insecurity, and pettiness, issues she believes require professional help to address. The vote ranking Caitlin as the 11th best guard stands as the strongest example in her argument. From Parker's perspective, there's no basketball-based reason for that ranking. She believes the only way to reach that conclusion is by allowing emotion to outweigh evaluation, letting resentment shape judgment instead of performance. That's what Parker means by insecurities. When someone feels so threatened by another player's success that they can no longer judge their abilities fairly, she argues it's no longer a basketball issue, but a psychological one. Parker argues that's something you need to work through with a therapist, not something you should bring onto the court or into player polls. The Alyssa Thomas situation is another example of this dysfunction. Thomas committed a flagrant foul that was so obvious, so egregious, that even players defending physical play all season had to admit it crossed the line. The league suspended her for 1 game, standard protocol, appropriate punishment. But instead of accepting responsibility, Thomas went into victim mode. She claimed death threats. She claimed poor communication from the league. She claimed she was being treated unfairly. All of it designed to shift the narrative away from her actions and onto the supposed toxicity of Caitlin's fan base. And here's the thing, some people bought it. Some media members ran with the death threats angle. Some fans felt sympathy for Thomas. The deflection worked. Instead of the conversation being about whether Thomas should face additional punishment, it became about whether the league was doing enough to protect players from online harassment. But as Parker points out, this isn't how other professional sports leagues operate. NFL players don't get special protection from mean tweets. NBA players don't get commissioner statements every time someone says something nasty online. According to this view, those leagues understand that giving attention to trolls is counterproductive. They handle legitimate security threats through proper channels and ignore the noise. The argument is that some WNBA players want special treatment. They want to be shielded from criticism, want the league to validate their feelings, and punish people who say negative things about them. When the league doesn't provide that level of support, they claim they're not being supported. This perspective argues that's part of why the league has struggled to grow for so long. Instead of focusing on basketball and letting the product speak for itself, there's constant drama about everything except what happens on the court. There's constant victimhood, demands for external validation, and an inability to simply play the game and let the results determine who gets attention. Caitlin Clark broke through that pattern. She just played. She didn't complain about the physicality, even though she took more hits than any rookie in league history. She didn't complain about the voting, even though being ranked 11th was objectively insulting. She didn't fire back at players who criticized her in the media. She kept playing, improving, winning, and let her performance do the talking. According to this argument, that made insecure players even more resentful because she showed them what professionalism looks like. She demonstrated that you don't need to play the victim to get attention or create drama to stay relevant. You just need to be excellent at basketball, and the rest takes care of itself. Parker's therapy comment is likely to make a lot of players angry. They'll say she crossed the line. They'll claim she doesn't understand what they're dealing with. They may even accuse her of siding with Caitlin because of racial dynamics, generational differences, or whatever other explanation they choose. But Parker's argument is that when you vote Caitlin Clark 11th, commit flagrant fouls, and then play the victim, or resent someone for being more popular instead of improving your own game, the issue goes beyond basketball. She believes those insecurities prevent players from acting professionally and reflect deeper personal issues that have nothing to do with one bad game or one controversial vote. At that point, it stops being about competition and starts becoming about ego, attention, and the inability to handle someone else receiving the spotlight. Parker argues that until those players address those concerns and become secure in themselves, Regardless of who else is getting attention, the league will continue facing the same problems over and over again. Caitlin Clark isn't going anywhere. She's going to keep being great, keep drawing massive audiences, and continue receiving endorsement deals, media coverage, and everything that comes with being a transcendent talent. And honestly, that's the part some people in the league seem unwilling to accept. The real question is whether the rest of the league can handle that reality with professionalism, or whether they're going to keep letting jealousy, resentment, and insecurity shape the environment around them. Based on the 11th place vote and the way this season unfolded, Parker believes the outlook isn't encouraging. So now the question is yours. Do you think Candace Parker went too far with the therapy comment?